Good morning. Today is Monday, I think it's April 8th, if I'm not mistaken. We continue with the Tanya studies. It's about 5:50 in the morning. And we finished 36 chapters of Tanya out of 53, so making good progress. And today we touch on two things. First is the chapter 36 finishes with interesting quote from Tanya. And the verse states, "Nations will come to your light," from Isaiah. And the verse states that the nation will say to Israel, "Come, house of Yaakov, let's walk in the light of God." V'katuv Beit Yaakov, Lechu v'nelcha ba'or Adonai. So it's interesting. Nations telling Israel, "Come, join us to walk in the light of God." Well, traditionally, I guess, Judaism believes that, what makes Jews chosen people, not that we're better or worse. We're just like every other nations, but we have a mission from God. Other nations don't have that mission, to receive the Torah and to live the Torah. And by our behavior, by our practice of Judaism, not by theoretical practice simply, but by theoretical observance, but by practical, how do we live our lives? How do we show ourselves example to the nations, to the world, that ultimately brings this light to the nations? In Christianity, the concept of bringing the light to other nations, and that's what Christian proselytizing, to bring the Jews to Christianity, is known. Well, Jews are not proselytizers. We don't want Christians to become Jewish. We don't want Muslims to become Jewish. We don't want Hindus to become Christians and so forth. If Christians believe that, that's fine. Their beliefs. Well, Judaism doesn't have it. But the more we learn Tanya, the more we see how Tanya finds similarities of all religions, of all nations. All religions essentially the expression of human desire to understand something, some forces beyond our limited world. People always, for the existence of the humanity, try to raise themselves to elevated level above just day-to-day struggle for food, for shelter, for sex, for entertainment. That's the earthly life. Yet we always we humans, from Adam and Eve, or even Adam and Eve, they also looked for something more, even though they already were in the presence of God. That's a difficult thing to fathom, I suppose. But what happens in the world today, you can see that there's two challenges right now. There's a conflict in Israel going on today. And in this conflict, the very existence of Israel is threatened. And a lot of conflicting ideas is happening. Most of the world, many people support Israel's right to exist, Israel's struggle to survival. But if you look at just pure numbers, United Nations Security Council, from 15 people, overwhelmingly, with occasional United States or England, sometimes UK, but mostly US, either vetoing or abstaining. But fundamentally, even 14 or 15 Security Council people, majority of the world basically does want to take up the Jewish cause, to understand that Israel has entered the stage of the end of days, so to speak. So, but we're looking from a perspective, the two things. The world is now, there's a cracking and filtering is happening in the world. Cracking, now people have to take positions. Before it was like gray area. Anti-Semitism was not exposed as openly as it was, let's say, in Germany during the Second World War. And even then in Germany, as we know, when Jews were gassed in chambers, America didn't enter the war until 1944 in Europe. almost in the end of the war, while millions of people were slaughtered and burned alive in the crematoriums. So the world was basically indifferent. I mean, the Hollywood in 1942 was producing its best movies, while people were perished by millions, not by thousands, by millions in the gas chambers. The apathy of the world is amazing. Amazing is not a good word, perhaps, but that's what did it. And then after that, things were like settled. Germany lost, Nazism lost, Germany rebuilt itself, Germany became more civilized. But Nazism didn't go away. It remained being present. And now people openly came out from the woodworks. When some farmer in the middle of Arkansas was just taking care of his farm and was as far as the politics as we are from moon of the Mars. All of a sudden he's going to a protest and tell us how Jews are oppressors and colonialists and genocidal nations, and every time, even legitimately, Israel would do something unfortunately mistaken. Let's say 3, 4, 7, 10 innocent people get killed in the process of the war. As unfortunate as it is, Israel feels sad and bad about it, but exactly that's where the world will pick up and put all pressure on Israel, how Jews behave badly. And thousands of Jews slaughtered by the haters of Israel doesn't even get condemned. It's normal. I mean, the rockets from the north going to Israel, United Nations Security Council doesn't bring it up, doesn't even say. Rockets from Gaza were going, even before October 7th, they were going to Israel. The United Nations said nothing, 1,500 rockets. United Nations doesn't matter. What will happen if Israel would just launch one rocket and kill one person? So that is, the world is opening up its mask. It's presenting itself in at least the good news. It's true exposure. The sides of the dome, the light and the darkness. But on the other hand, Israel also giving the message. The Torah says that Israel, Jews, will be pointed to, I will put the hornet into your midst to remind you to follow the ways of God. So we need to look at ourselves, the Jews need to look at ourselves and find what do we do good, what do we don't do good, and how do we get our ways. And eventually, it is the nations that will come enlighten, and tell Israel, come, house of Yaakov, let's walk in the light of God. Moses wasn't led to Israel, to Holy Land, after Exodus, for very small mistakes that he made. Anybody else would not, God would overlook anybody's mistake like that, but for Moses, it was unforgivable. And that is today the measures that we, Israel, look at ourselves. We don't compare ourselves that because we don't butcher people as Hamas butchers us. That because we don't do that. If somebody does rob the bank, it doesn't make him necessarily a good person. I'm not a bank robber, but I am still not helping my neighbor to unload the truck to bring the refrigerator that's been delivered to a house, even if I'm physically capable. So that indifference, this callousness, can be considered as minor. It's not minor in the eyes of God, in the eyes of Hashem towards Israel. So we will be reminded, we are being reminded, the Jews, that we have to fix our things. We have to put decency on our streets. We can't have ladies walking up and down the streets half naked and go to parades essentially just in the underwear. Sorry to say that. Comparing to hundreds of thousands of people slaughtered in other countries, somewhere in the middle of Africa, doesn't make it better, doesn't justify the fact that here in Israel or in Jewish neighborhoods, we might not be attentive to the old lady staying at home and not be able to get herself a cup of soup to eat. She's lonely, she doesn't have relatives, she's not in good health, she is sick. And we don't attend to this fully. A lot of good things like that happens in Israel. There's a soup kitchen, there's charities, the whole medical system is very good. People are taken care of. But God says, it's all wonderful, but not enough for you. You can do better. And that is what God is reminding us. It's frustrating sometimes to me too, that after doing all that good things and missing on certain things, we have to witness such a horrible atrocities against our people. The question would say, well, we're not perfect. We don't do certain things very good, but do we deserve such a backlash, such treatment, such indifference, such as some political analysts calling the monsters, using the useful idiots that protest against from the river to the sea without even knowing where exactly on the map is that river and which sea. And yet the anti-Semitism, the hatred of the Torah, the hatred of the cause of God is so strong that the many nations and many people around the world joining this dark force against Jews. Even somebody has owning the store in North Dakota, and they probably will be harassed by that what does he have, this Jewish store owner, a single Jewish store owner in North Dakota, have to do what's happening in Israel right now? And yet anti-Semitism will go around his store and point out that he is a dirty Jew, is a problem, and has to be dealt with. Well, we're witnessing Nazi Germany in the 1930s. We're witnessing that behavior all over the world. But that's what cracking and filtering is all about. That's a message to the world. It's also a message to us. Different standards. The world has to have a major adjustment to its attitude to light. And we, the light, have to take major for us attitude adjustment to God. I don't want to be a preacher to say, well, person has to go to the synagogue 3 times a day and pray instead of going to the beach on Saturday. But that's part of that. It's not like we're called to just sit and study Torah 25 hours a day and forget everything else. But the Tanya, opening the 37th chapter, saying then the tendency that the message here that your Torah will be retained and remembered if your body is engaged when studying it. We talked before that studying Torah, learning Torah, doing mitzvot, good deeds, helping other people, and prayer, those 3 things are foundation of the world. And if you take that, if we don't forget that, it will actually says the tendency to forgetfulness can be averted. And that is when their powers are withdrawn from non-sacred pursuits and fully immersed into the sacred practice of Torah, study, and prayer. So, message here, eliminate wasting time. Don't sit and flip channels on watching the junk on the TV for 2 hours. Get up your behind and do something useful. Knock on the door, knock on your neighbor's door and say, he or she needs any help. Look at your activities. If it's for Jews, look at your activities and ask yourself, are we focusing too much excessively on project? Chesed committee is presiding to think about what new grass must be reseeded, what new addition to the synagogue rooms must be added when the people next door don't have anything to eat. That is where we have to look. We have to waste time. We'll stop wasting time not only on prohibited activities, but for activities that are not prohibited. That, hey, I'm not responsible for my neighbor. Well, you are responsible. And by the way, it's interesting, people say that that study of the Torah has physical benefits. Alzheimer, how do you say it, forgetfulness, that in old age, people begin to forget things. Well, studying Torah sharpens the mind. And there's many examples all over that 104-year-old rabbis are sitting and studying, and the mind is clear, physically maybe frail a little bit, but mentally still sharp. So studying the Torah has a lot of benefits. Well, that's the message today's discussion to the world. It doesn't seem to be just focusing on God. It seems like we slipped a little bit into political discussions, but it's part of the world. It's part of the message God gives us, sends us today. The message of the world is major. The world, you have lost moral compass. Take a grip of yourself. Look what you do. Don't be influenced by the useful idiots that tell you that gratification of your body and a hatred of other people is justified. That's a message to the world. Stop before it's too late. The message to Israel, the house of Israel, a small fraction of the humanity, of the numbers in humanity. We also have a message. We also have to sometimes maybe pray a little bit less and do a little bit more. Sounds strange to many religious people. Yes, pray, do mitzvot, study Torah, but also take time to help the neighbor, Jew or non-Jew. And that's the message Tanya is giving us today. It's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Have a great day. Today's Monday, April 8th, 2024. Talk tomorrow. We're going to chapter 37 of Tanya from now on.